what you ladies are talking about with like the actual process of creating it, right? Like Renee, when you're creating those cringe reels that they're telling you should be doing for the algorithm or whatever, and you're like, this is what I need to do for the algorithm. As you're doing it, like what effect does that have on you? It drains you. You have less energy after. You're less excited about your business after. You feel kind of weird because it's like not authentic. Like it just brings up so many things that actually have like a ripple effect into both your life and your business. And it's just not, in my mind, a good thing. So I think it's important to actually be aware of that, because when you're creating content that is in alignment with you and what you like, and like you talked about, that really grounded content, maybe it's longer form, maybe it's not switching like this, you feel like, even me, when I make those 6-hour reels, I have a great time. Like I love doing it. Like I'm like, it looks so good. I loved it. Like I feel so like people are going to see this and think it's so great. Like even if it only gets 400 views, I still enjoyed the process of it. And that made me better and my business better.
Hey ladies, thank you so much for coming on. I am so thrilled to be able to chat with you guys today. I know we met in California right before James's BBD event. Like you guys were in town there, and then we met up at another event, and a friend of mine dragged me along to that event. And I'm so grateful because I met you guys, I met some other amazing women, and one, just to highlight, like getting in the room with people, especially when you don't know anybody, is so valuable and so helpful. But after that event, I remember like catching up with one of you at BBD and was like, hey, I totally would love to have you on the podcast. Like, let's do this. So grateful to have you ladies here.
Oh, we're so excited to be here. And Renee, by the time this comes out, or maybe shortly after, you'll have also been on my podcast as well, Build Your Digital Community. And you were such a fabulous guest. I was just telling you ahead of time. And I think there's just so much that the three of us can jam out on. So we're so excited because any friend of yours is a friend of ours.
Yeah, I love that. So before we get going, I know we've already done a little bit of an intro for you guys beforehand. Tell us a little bit about like how you guys got started. Like, I think this is probably the first episode I've ever recorded with two people at the same time. So I'm sure you guys are used to it, but it's different for me. So tell me a little bit about like how the two of you guys got started in business together, what that looked like, and where you guys are today.
Such a long story that I will try my best to condense, because we've known each other for, I think, at least 10 years now. So we sort of go way back, which has been a great foundation for our business. But we met in university, where we kind of worked together in a few different capacities. We did student activities for the residents that we both lived at. And then Kristina graduated, ended up working at the university, and then was actually my boss, which was super fun. We had such a great time. We were also like really good friends and would travel together and were in the same program. And so built a great foundation for our relationship there. And then Kristina went on to work in higher ed, and I ended up in travel. And then when good old 2020 came around, I was looking for something else to do. As you can imagine, travel was not really happening at the time. So what ended up happening actually was Kristina was a little bit bored with all her free time, ended up starting a little personal development coaching business, and then asked me to just help her a few hours a week with like her social and putting together some of the workshops and stuff, and really leaning into our strengths there, because I have like kind of the more graphic and creative side down, and she has the more like strategy, and she had all the personal development like knowledge, and the coaching was amazing. So that really took off like more than either of us could have ever expected. And it was all through the power of social, which blew our minds a little bit, because we didn't realize that you could actually like have a business and you don't even really need a website, and you don't even really need like an extensive business plan, and you can actually be super successful just kind of creating that community on social. So not too long into that, we had a bunch of people start asking us again and again if we could help them with their social and their podcast. And we had just learned everything ourselves and kind of learned through trial and error, and eventually had to say yes to some of these requests because they were just coming in so hot. And the social snippet was born overnight. We actually had a friend who had a couple social media clients. She was like, I think you guys should take these people on. You'd be perfect for them. And Kristina and I had this conversation at like 8 p.m. one night. And the next morning I woke up and she had created an entire website for the social snippet.
I think we talked about that. Like Kristina and I are both like, we've got this idea, we go for it. Like we just like don't hesitate. And I think it's so fun to see other people do that, because that is so me. I'm like, idea, go, done. Yeah.
And Maria is like the opposite of that, in the sense of like she likes to systemize ideas and like likes to be really thoughtful about things. So like I've had some bad ideas that I've brought to life where like I've done some things, I'm like, ooh, that didn't work, that wasn't good. And Maria's like, you should have talked to me first. I would have put you in line.
I would have talked you off the ledge before you jumped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so great. Like, I love that. I think I wish I had a Maria in my life sometimes. That's my husband, but I just don't share all my business stuff with him. But so I love this. And I think that this is such a powerful thing because I think there is a lot of like in the online business space, there's a lot of, or even just business in general, there's a lot of like, I think I have to do it this way sort of strategy or these systems or, and like this year actually for me has been like, where can I go back to the basics and where can I do one thing and where can I do this one thing really well? And how can I simplify? Like my word of the year this year is refinement. So it's like, how can I just go back instead of having these overly complicated things everywhere and strategies and things and just get really good at what I'm doing? And I know one of the big things that you guys do really well and that focused in on is that one like core basic thing is creating community and having it be about relationship and people. And I think that that is somewhere like sometimes I see that missing in terms of people want to create the offer, they want to create the business, they want to create the plan, they want to create the content, but it's lacking that depth and that communication. It's almost like projecting themselves out into the world rather than really attracting in. And so much of what I teach in that feminine space is about how do we create that attraction and magnetism and like create this community within. So other than maybe community, what was that secret sauce that you guys really started focusing in on in that beginning phase that you feel like really made that difference for you?
Yeah. So I think one of the pieces that kind of comes to mind for me is really just like talking to people about our business and asking questions. So something that I was in a live podcast about yesterday. I talked about this and I don't talk about this often, but the first mastermind Maria and I ever joined, we met with every single person in the mastermind. Like we gave a Zoom link to every single person. We did a half an hour call and we called them social media audits. And all we would do is audit people's social, like, hey, this is what we think you could do better. This is unclear. Like, because not all business managers are social media mavens. Right? Like it's not natural for everyone in the same way I'm not a maven in everything everyone else does. And so we just started to give people like really honest advice, but with just value. Like we didn't ask for anything. There was no pitch. We didn't collect emails after. We didn't do anything. We just built relationships. And naturally, actually, some clients came from that, as well as referrals, connections. But it also really helped us refine our offers and helped us really like, it doesn't have to be a mastermind. It can be your Instagram followers. It can be a Facebook group. It can be like anything that you're in and really like a local group, whatever. And it really helped us refine our offers and understand the language that our clients were using. So something we noticed that we would talk about like bio optimization, like profile optimization, like nobody knew what that was. Like nobody knew that their profile needed to be optimized. No one knew what it was being optimized for. Like no one knew any of those things. And so really it helped us like bring our language to like the layman's term, like the person who is our ideal client and helping figure out like, how do we attract them with their own language? And so if I was starting over a business again, like, which I'm sure I will soon, I would start from basics, which would be just talking to the people I would want to maybe buy from me, add a crap ton of value to them, like more than they could have ever asked for. And then really just capitalize on the learnings as an opportunity for some real market research.
Yeah. That's so good. It's funny is like, I just had my retreat and on the way back, one of the people that was in my car, I was driving her to the airport. She was a brand new student. Like she had purchased into my program on this more self-study thing, which was brand new. So I was like, I want to kind of pick your brain if I can, like, what was it that made you pull in? What was it that you said yes? Like, how has it been going? And she had said that one of the things that really drew her in was that I had put out in this last year, I was working with a coach that was helping me do these, what they call like hand raisers, where you're sending out an email, just trying to create conversation, then potentially moving them down to a sales call. But I was in the season of life, like, I don't even have time for sales calls. Like I've got plenty of other things going. Like, so I was just putting these things out there, getting people responding back. And she had said, I was waiting for the pitch in the email or waiting for that sales in the email exchanges that were going on. But she's like, it never came. And it felt like I could let my guard down and actually have a relationship with you. Like it built so much trust in you that it wasn't just all about trying to get me to a sales call, or wasn't all just trying to get me to a sales, that you were like legitimately interested in what I was bringing to you and like the questions I had. And for me, it wasn't I mean, I feel like that's a part of who I am. And so it has bled into my stuff. Part of it came out of necessity of just like season of life, but it really is honing in on exactly what you're talking about in this terms of like, it doesn't always have to go directly to a sale. It doesn't always have to go to they are taking the next step. It's like, how do we build that communication and that community and that connection so that then that next step just becomes a logical answer, but it's not you having to facilitate, like strategize directing that. It's just like relationship based.
Yeah. And I think the nature of sales has just changed so much. Like, I feel like it used to be like, hi, I'm selling this. Do you want to buy it? And now it's gone so far the other way. And I feel like that has contributed so much to our success is going like that way. I think we maybe went too far. Like sometimes people are like, oh, you guys do podcasts? Like people don't even know what we do. So it's like, perhaps we could be a little bit more clear. But I think people really resonate with that. Like the approach of, I'm just going to give you a ton of value. And then if you feel drawn to, inquire about what I could sell you or what, services we offer, that approach feels so much better for people because it just takes that like ick part out of it and that uncomfortableness. And it reframes you, I think, in a light where you seem like someone who has their best interests at heart, wants to serve them, and is willing to give them a ton of value. And if you're going to give all that value for free, then I'm sure they can only imagine what it's like if they actually pay you, right? So I think that strategy is so smart, and that's what we've seen a lot of success with. And it also feels better. Like for me, especially, like Kristina is our sales maven over there. I hate sales, but it just feels so good to be putting out content that helps people and makes the world a better place. And of course you want to, like you talk about, Renee, attract those aligned clients and the people that are actually going to really resonate with you and the way you work and your style and all those different things. And by approaching sales that way, I think it also really helps kind of pre-qualify clients and get clients that you actually want to work with and will end up having a great relationship with, and sets you up for success in the long run.
That people need to think about too is that like when you're selling or you're even just talking about what you're doing, like you're not only talking about it to the people who are hearing you, but you're also talking about it to their community. So it's often like what I think I've been so impressed by in our business is that I will get, or through our email, like I do all of our sales, and someone will reach out and it'll be like a friend of a friend of a friend. And I'll be like, why? Like, why? How did this person find us? They're like, this person loves working with you. And they told my friend about it. And my friend mentioned, hey, like, you need social media and that you should work with these girls. And like, it's so interesting, but it's like, we're not selling to those people, but it's about the community. So often when people like, they're speaking into the void of Instagram, they're like, who am I talking to? Like, of course there's things you should finesse for your messaging. You want to make sure you have a good audience. There's things to do to make sure you have the right audience, but you're not falling completely like there where people aren't hearing you. And so I think that's also an important thing to remember is that sometimes it's not exactly who you're serving. It's like, it's their network that you're actually connecting with.
That's so good. Yeah. And I think where I was going to go is like, I feel like in this age right now, there's a lot of mistrust, especially in the online space. Like I see it a lot, even just in comments people have. I even watch it myself, right? Like I get so many spam messages. I get so many weird emails, like weird DMs. Like there's that even when I see something that interests me or intrigues me, either A, we've been burned before, or we have some fear of doubt of like, okay, is this claim over exaggerated? Like I've seen that happen so much, like the 10K months in 30 days or less. Like it's possible if you've had years of building a business and like have this background, but if you're a brand new business owner, it doesn't really relate. So I think that there's some mistrust in the industry and what I'm seeing. And I think a lot of people are hesitant, at least what I'm seeing. And what I am kind of interested in is like the community eliminates that. Like it builds this trust on such a deeper level that it's not like we have to prove our worth or prove or convince or do any of these things. It's like that inherent trust, I think, is the biggest factor into whether or not people buy from you. I think it's kind of, I'm like, my brain spiraled a little bit in there, but you got the gist.
And I think there's so much you can do to build that trust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like online, offline, like whatever. And I think like we all get these cold pitches, right? By email that I get them all the time. They're like, you run a social media agency. I'm curious about like why your content isn't more engaging. I would love to. And I'm like, that's not it. That is not how I'm going to give you money. Right. And I have never responded to a cold pitch. And I'll give you an example. So Maria and I, one time we did a discovery call with a coach. We didn't shocker. We didn't end up working with them. And in the call, he was like, I am going to teach you guys this amazing skill. And we're like, yeah, like give us a skill. And he was like, I'm going to teach you guys how to cold email people. And that gets really good results. And immediately I got my backup. Like I was like, no, cold emailing doesn't work. Like, because like I would never respond to a cold email. And he was like, yeah, but you're the exception, not the norm. Like, you know about the online world. And I was like, but it's still wrong to prey on people, right? Like it's still wrong to prey on people in that way. And there is probably a way to connect with people cold. And, you know, I think there's probably something there, but I think like when we have a warm audience and we can build in our community, like that's actually where like the fun sales comes. That's where you're not pulling teeth and it feels very like jarring. It's like, no, you have these connections with these people. You've been connected. They're excited to buy from you. You're excited to sell to them. And it feels super aligned. And I think that's what we're actually all looking for when we're selling is we're looking for these like aligned connections. We don't want to be like begging people to buy. And I think the more we warm people up, the easier that kind of stuff comes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So when you look at community, right? Like you talked about just giving value, serving the heck out of these people, which is kind of where you started. And I'm guessing that by now you have some sort of strategy and some sort of not finesse, but like there's a method to the madness essentially of like, how do you strategically build that community so that it's not just showing up on social media and throwing spaghetti at the wall or throwing tons of stuff out there, but like, how do you actually make somebody on the other end of this virtual world feel seen, heard, and connected to when you're putting content out? And sometimes it is hard to get people to talk back sometimes. So if you're beginning and you don't have that feedback back from those people, what are those things and tools that somebody could use to really start creating that community of people talking back to them?
Ooh, such a good question. A couple things come to mind. I'm sure you have some thoughts too, Kristina. I think one thing that people like don't often think about is like just asking people one-on-one. Like, but even if it's like your mom, like it's like 2 Instagram followers, like one's your mom, one's your best friend. Go to one of those people and say, like, what do you think of this content? I feel like oftentimes with our content, we overcomplicate it. I love your theme, Renee, of like simplification. That's also a theme for me this year because people on the receiving end want the simplification. When we're overcomplicating things because we think we're adding more value that way, we're actually not, because the person on the other end is overwhelmed. So simplifying things, like making sure your content is even written in language that your audience would use or that they would understand or they can resonate with. And so sometimes people like your mom or your best friend, or maybe someone who's a little less biased towards how great you are actually great people to look at your content and give you feedback, because if they have no idea what the heck you're talking about, then does your ideal client have any idea what you're talking about? So I think those one-on-one conversations can be really, really powerful. And then also I think the key is like making it easy for people to engage. So for example, if you're going to do an Instagram story and you're like, hi, what do you want to see about on my profile? Drop it below. That's like a little hard to engage with. Like, I don't know what I would say to you, Renee. Like, what do I want to see from you? I don't know. What do you want to give me? Like, whatever you want. Like, I don't know. But if you had a poll that was like, what do you want to see from me on my Instagram? More of A, B, C, or D, like click one, and making it so easy for them to engage and give their opinion and give their thoughts. I find that really works well. Or even like an emoji slider, like, hey guys, I'm feeling like this today. Anybody else feeling like this? Where they could just very easily, like Instagram especially has made it super easy to engage, and there's lots of ways to do that. So I think making it, and also making it fun for people. I feel like that's a big theme in our business that sometimes is missed. I see on the internet when people are like so serious about things, but sometimes the fun piece is what makes people actually want to engage.
Yeah.
And then I think my final point would just be bring your audience along in the building of everything. So bring them along in like the behind the scenes, whether you're like packing an order or coming up with an offer or whatever that looks like, bring them along with you. And then it's so much easier to sell it on the other end because they've come along for the process of like, hey guys, I'm throwing this awesome retreat. Do you think it should be like 5 days or 7 days? And then everyone votes and they vote 7. And then by the time you launch it, they basically already know all about it and they almost helped you create it. So it's like 2 birds, 1 stone, where you're kind of like advertising it in a way that feels really cool and authentic, but then also you're creating an offer with and for the people that you're going to sell it to.
Yeah, so good. And I think that even just what you talked about too, of like making it really easy for them to respond. Like I've played with that. I noticed like a lot of times what I see is like going too deep, right? If we say like, do you want this thing or this thing? It's like so big that I've found, even like you said, playing, being like, do you like coffee or tea? Or do you like, popsicles, or do you like cake or whatever? Like just gets people livened up in the conversation or in the polls and things like that, that then they're more likely to respond to one of my other questions. So like, I remember when I've had questions where I'm like, I really want to know this one, but I can't just throw that out there. I'll do like 5 or 6 fun posts of like this or that. And then eventually they're in that like rhythm of like, okay, cool. I can like answer this one. But I think part of it too is like, I go into it like, I want this big answer. Like, do I go this direction or this direction? And like you said, our audience isn't always ready for that big answer. They want it, they're making it super simple, like super direct. I feel like has made such a huge difference for me. And I notice it watching like other people's stuff that they post in their polls and like what's getting responded to or what's not. And so my question in this is like, for those people that don't feel like they're very fun, right? Like, I feel like I tend to be a little bit more on the serious side and the like, I know I can have fun, but it's not my natural quality. And I mean, in the sense of like posting it on the internet, I don't want to say I'm not fun. I like backtrack, like reverse this, but I tend to be a little bit more serious and a more deep, like I like that deeper connection essentially. And so I know that that happens a lot too. People are like, I'm not inherently fun. Whereas like my daughter even recently was like, James has posted out so much fun stuff on the internet. Like some of his reels lately have been hilarious. Like they're just so much fun. Right. And so it's like, there's different types of personalities too. So like, what would you recommend for those people that are in those different personalities and feel like they have to morph themselves into something in order to show up online? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm not fun either. And like, I'm not in a like, not fun, like I'm a fun, like human. But like, I'm not fun online. I'm a very serious, like it's funny. Like Maria, like back me up a little. Like, I'm pretty serious.
I knew you were going to say that, but you actually are so fun.
Well, I'm a fun human. Like, you know, bring me to a party, but like, I like online, I don't want to do like dancing. I don't want to lip sync. I don't want to jump into a Jeep and recreate a scene from Jurassic Park, right? Like that's just not me. And like James is so good at that, right? And that is so awesome. That kind of crap gives me like major ick, not against James, but against doing it for myself. Right. So it's like one of the things we say about social is like, if like it's probably like I'm just going to say it every day. If you edit it, that's fine. But we always say like, people don't want to see you like dancing at gunpoint, right? Like people don't want to see you doing these things that are like, I'm like, I hate doing this, but I'm doing it because I have to. Like people can see through that. Yeah. But when I've done things that are like trendy and fun and like things like that, I'm like, I hate this. No one's engaging with this because I hate it. They can tell that I'm not interested in it, right? Yeah. But where my magic is that like I am serious and I give the facts and I love to like add value and I love to like be funny, but like really just like talk about like the real stuff. And I attract people who love that about me. And so I think one of the things, and this is so woo, and people are going to be like, you know, yeah. But it's like from an attraction marketing perspective, it's like you probably don't want clients that are looking for that if that's not what you are. Yeah. So for me, it's like the fact that I'm highly strategic and like I love like the system behind social and I love the community aspect. That's a lot of fun. And I don't post reels that say, hi, look at me dancing and I made 5 mil last year. You know what I mean? Which we didn't. But like, you know, like I think that's the difference. So I think if I was to give someone advice, if they're out there and they're like looking at someone like James, who's like killing it with his marketing and doing such a good job, but that just feels so foreign to them. Then lean into the stuff that doesn't feel foreign and see what works. And all you can do is try. So maybe I think like one of the things when Maria was talking that came to mind for me is that we see a lot of people with social, a mistake that they make is that they think everyone understands what they do. And just how social is something that like I understand very deeply, but someone listening might be like, what's a hashtag? But they're a fertility coach and they understand like everything about the cycle and like how the cycle works throughout the month. Like those are different things, right? And so we all have our zones of genius. And so when we actually just start marketing to our clients where we just talk about the problems they're having rather than the solutions that we provide, that's where a lot of the magic happens. Like, and we learned that early, like early on in our days, we talked to people about wanting to stay in their zone of genius. We talked to people about wanting to save time. We didn't go on being like, hi, we're going to make you $1 million on social. Like, you want social? It was like speaking to problems they were having that would make them outsource. So anyway, that's my long-winded answer of I'm not fun either. And I think that that's kind of my magic.
No, I think that's really good because I think it does give people permission to like, I know for a while, it was probably like a year or so ago, I was working with a coach and she was talking about like being more on video, on camera, like on your face to video camera on social media. Yeah. And it was so awkward. And so at the time I started researching like all these people of like, how do you catch people to engage with the reel? Like, how do you get them to stop on video? And it was so much of this like quick attention grabbing shifting of the frames and, you know, being high energy. And I look back on some of those videos and I'm like, those are so not me. Like they were so fake and so forced. And I had to go through it in order to get to where I am today. But now it's so much focused on like grounding and about confidence in of myself when I show up. And then the energy in that video feels so different. And like you said, like the energy of what you put out there, if you're feeling like you're doing something just because you have to do it because that's what the algorithm needs you to do, like sometimes I feel like I had to go through that. Like I had to do that in order to learn what feels good for me and what didn't feel good for me. But I think it does make such a huge difference in how we show up. And like I said, I'm like, sometimes I cringe at some of those older videos, but it was a part of me learning, like, how do I want to speak to my people and how do I want to connect with my people? And like, what do I feel okay with? And what do I not feel okay with? And like the pointing on the screen, like tap, tap, tapping. And like, I watched somebody even just recently do like a whole like reel change thing. And I was like, it looks amazing, but there's no way I would waste my time trying to figure out how to do that. Like, just not going to happen, you know? So it just like, I feel like gives permission for that.
Something that comes up for me, and this is something that like the team kind of teases me about all the time, is like, I'm a messy action taker. Yeah. And I don't like things that take a lot of time. Like, so for me, it's like a reel where it's going to take years off my life. It's like just not of interest to me. But Maria is so talented, like when it comes to reels, and also has this like very back perfectionist flair that like can sometimes come out. So she'll be like, I spent 6 hours on this reel and I like love this reel so much and it only got 400 views, but like it looks so good and it looks like we are like, you know, like Jay-Z made this reel. Like it looks so well produced and so beautiful. I don't know why Jay-Z came to mind. I've never even thought about Jay-Z. I don't even know what Jay-Z's reels look like. I'm going to have to look after this. But for me, I make reels sometimes that are so high performing because they're so simple. And and sometimes they're not, or my hands are shaking in them. And you know, we laugh about this because we run these amazing women's events in Canada and, you know, self-proclaimed. And we will like have a dinner and I'll take a video and my hands will shake with the video. And then I'll put like, entrepreneurial women, you looking for community? And people are like, yeah, I'm looking for community. And we're like, what about the professional photos we took? What about the videographer that came to that? Like, you know, no one, like, you know, so it's like, it's always about testing and seeing. And I think, Maria, maybe you can speak more to this, but I think there's no such thing as a bad social media post. It's all information because something that works so well for you, Renee, isn't going to work for me. Something that works, Maria and I know, something that works so well for Maria does not work for my audience and vice versa. We attract totally different people into our business. We attract totally different people into our lives. And that's what makes us such a good pair. But it's also like what makes us so human is we all don't like everybody. Yeah. And I think that that's okay. And if you're going to fake it on social and you're going to show up and you're going to be like, look at me like dancing on this reel. I'm so fun. Like, look at me on this yacht, like blah, 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 blah. And then you get on a call and you're like this serious little gremlin like me. Like you're not even attracting the right clients. You're not even going to enjoy working with that person. So I think it's like really about that honesty. I don't know, Maria, maybe you have something to add there.
I love it. I feel like that was all gold. That was so good. Two things are coming to mind for me. And one, I think what you ladies are talking about with like the actual process of creating it, right? Like Renee, when you're creating those cringe reels that they're telling you should be doing for the algorithm or whatever. And you're like, this is what I need to do for the algorithm. As you're doing it, like what effect does that have on you? It drains you. You have less energy after. You're less excited about your business after. You feel kind of weird because it's like not authentic. Like it just brings up so many things that actually have like a ripple effect into both your life and your business. And it's just not, in my mind, a good thing. So I think it's important to actually be aware of that, because when you're creating content that is in alignment with you and what you like, and like you talked about, that really grounded content, maybe it's longer form, maybe it's not switching like this, you feel like, even me, when I make those 6-hour reels, I have a great time. Like, I love doing it. Like, I think I'm like, it looks so good. I loved it. Like, I feel so like people are going to see this and think it's so great. Like, even if it only gets 400 views, I still enjoyed the process of it, and that made me better and my business better. And then I think the second thing to think about is it's so tempting to look at people who are doing really well, especially on reels and things like that, on TikTok or whatever, and think, oh, they're successful because they're doing it that way. So if I just do it that way, I'm going to be successful too. But really what it is they're successful because they're leaning into who they truly are, and they're creating content that's truly in alignment with them, that feels good for them and how they show up. And so by trying to replicate that, you're not going to have the same results as them, because you're a different human than them. So you have to do it in a way that's so good for you.
Yeah, we could leave it with that, because I think that's the goal, right? Is that it doesn't matter if it's your business, or it doesn't matter if it's social media, or if it's whatever, that it is about you finding your zone, like your thing that you love and the way that you love doing it and how it lights you up. Because years ago, I was doing a totally different business, and I remember looking at other people in the online space that were doing a similar niche and looking at what they were posting and what they were talking about, and having this gut moment to myself of like, if this is what it's going to take to be successful and like produce in this area, this is not the area I want to be in, because this is not the conversation and the topic and the content that I want to be producing. Like, and that was kind of what led me into where I am today, of like, really, where is it that I want to talk about? And like, what do I want to share? Because it did not matter how much of that other type of content or all the other things that I was putting out, like I wasn't seeing the success. And I was watching these other women like explode and do so well. And it's exactly what you talked about, that they were leaning into what felt so good to them. And it didn't feel good to me, even though it was a business area that would be successful or could be successful. It wasn't successful for me because it wasn't where I was supposed to be.
One of my favorite things to talk about, and this I think was our first ever post on the Social Snippet Instagram, was like this post we did that was like 100 engaged followers is better than 10,000 unengaged followers. So when you're looking at all these people that have millions of views on their reels and all these crazy things, you don't actually need that to have a successful business. We have tons and tons of clients with less than 1,000 followers with thriving businesses. And it's really about the quality of your community, the quality of those followers, if they're an energetic match to you and all that good stuff that matters so much more than the quantity of the number.
So good. So good. Well, I know that there's going to be plenty of people that want to come hang out with you guys, because you are so much fun. And it's been a pleasure to have you hang out. So where can people find you and hang out with you?
Firstly, like, just like want to appreciate like you and like your amazing community. Like, you are just so amazing at what you do. And like I said, I like couldn't say enough good things about having you on my podcast and how insightful you are. So it's just grateful to be part of your community. And I'll let Maria tell you where you can find us.
Ooh, okay. So fun. I think Instagram is probably the place we hang out the most. So you can find us at The Social Snippet there, and then our individual little profiles are linked in the bio, or you can go to our website, thesocialsnippet.com. We also just launched a new membership that is called the Instagram Business Club. So would actually love, Renee, to offer to your audience, if they would like to join, they can get their first month for $1 using code Renee. And in there, we're just chatting about all things Instagram and making it easier, making it more fun and simplifying. And we like to have fun while we're doing it.
So good. So good. And I will highlight that your Instagram is The Social Snippet, with the in there. Because I've tried searching just Social Snippet and I've had a hard time finding you ladies. So the needs to be
Social Snippet.
The Social Snippet. Perhaps we should go try and snag that other handle. Oh, thanks for that tip.
I was going to say there was quite a few like social snippets or social dot snippet or whatever. And so I was like, shoot, I'm like having to click through. And then I was like, oh, it's the E. But that was a few months ago. So The Social Snippet.
The social snippet. Renee, one last thing that I'll tell you is funny is that we often find that people will call us the social snippets. Like, we're each an individual snippet. And we respond to that as well. So if someone wants to call us that, that's fine as well.
Just clip a piece of you out. Like,
Snippet.
Yep. So thank you, ladies, so much for coming on. Is there anything else you feel like you want to add or leave people with?
We're in gratitude and we're so excited, and just want to let you know, any friend of Renee's is a friend of ours. So come on over. We have some great freebies. We've got some great resources, and we're just so excited to kind of serve your community.
So good. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, Renee.